My name is Charles Haba. I am a lawyer by training, and my business and background is in housing and housing finance. I've been in this field for more than 10 years. I run a company called Century Real Estate. It's a property services company that started relatively small from a merger of two companies that were offering similar and identical services, and we set up Century. So what we basically do at Century, we offer a wide range of property services. Real estate agency, where we do buying and selling of commercial and residential properties, tie up renters with landlords, tie up buyers with sellers, tie up property developers with buyers, tie up property developers with tenants, tie up commercial businesses with retail spaces. That's one wing of the business. The other side of the business that keeps us really extremely busy is what we call promotion. So it's a package of a one-stop package of property services. So give a practical example. You want to do a block of apartments, or you want to do an office block, or you want to do a mall, a shopping mall. So we find you the land, we do for you all the due diligence, we do the market research, we do the feasibility of the project, we source the financing, and then we now come at the end to do what we do best. Fill it up for you if it is a rental project, or pre-sell it for you if it's a sales project. Then in addition to those property services, we also process titles for our clients, titles for your properties, land titles, title deeds. We get your property valuations done, and sometimes advise on quite often actually advise on uplifting or upgrading or changing usage of your property so that it makes business more better business sense for the investors. I'll respond that from a two-pronged approach, the model of Century in-house and how we operate. So we have our core staff, who's we have a general manager, we have an administration and a finance function, we have somebody who looks after our projects, then we have agents, those are paid staff, and then we have support staff, people who assist us to make sure the atmosphere in the office is nice, it's a nice working atmosphere, and then to also help us run around our errands. So we're not so big a company. We have 7 staff, and we are growing. Now that's in-house. Now in terms of what all those different people do, the agents basically get the deals done, and the GM looks after the day-to-day operations of the company, the overall picture. And the projects guy looks after the developments, especially the commercial developments that we're handling, and then the admin person just makes sure that the company is running smoothly. Now, in terms of the other stakeholders, we have people whom we work with very closely. I'd call them, the inner circle. So we don't keep them on our payroll because we need them on an assignment to assignment basis. So that's our valuers, our surveyors, our financial consultants, and architects. Those 4 mainly. Then close by we have contractors and the other professionals. So contractors and then the other professionals would be your structural and electromechanical engineers, your interior designers, your plumbers, your electricians, and people who offer the other services that we need, like an internet service provider, all that is tied onto different facets of real estate. Now, when you take it a notch further, people now whom we then work very closely with. property developers top that list, because whatever they build needs to even before it gets to being sold or rented, it needs to make business sense. So property developers top that list. A very, very close number 2 is talking about business sense is the financials. And the financials are the banks who give debt. There are equity partners who put in equity into projects, and investors, generally speaking. So those are our other stakeholders. Everything about real estate sits on land. So our other stakeholders would be the authorities, the city authorities, municipality authorities, the lands office, the guys who register the titles, the guys who register property transactions. Yeah, so those really they form the core of our inner team and stakeholders. Yes, it's probably the best way to look at it is from an angle of the growth of Kigali as a city and Rwanda as a country. Every year that goes by, we are becoming a more and more attractive destination for doing business. And that's not because of people whom we call feel-good investors, sympathy people who are saying Rwanda went through very tough times and therefore needs to be helped and supported. Those days are phasing out. Have since phased out, and it's purely business-oriented people. Yes. Now, with that comes the hunger for professional services. For professional services across the board, whether you're a lawyer, an accountant, an architect, or whatever service you're giving. Now, how did this come up? You tickled my mind by saying, it seems everybody wants to do a bit of that. But when you're beginning to put up projects that are in their millions of dollars, you will need very good professional advice that is well thought out. Now, I remember how I came up with this idea. I used to work in a mortgage finance institution where for more than 5 years. And whilst we were there, would appraise projects, would finance projects, would get people mortgages, would buy people homes, and you could see the basic information of what is realistic and achievable on the ground was lacking. Then secondly, Rwanda has also grown a lot from learning from the best practices in other countries and other regions. We didn't have professional estate agents in this town. We had brokers, we had street brokers who would either give you false information, who would underquote, overvalue, overcharge, undercharge, and clients, I mean buyers, renters, sellers, landlords would not get value for money. So there was the existing players who are not giving value for money. Then on the other side, there were people coming from abroad who are used to certain standards that they were not finding in the market. So I'd not say we were the pioneers. We did find some players in the market before we started doing business. But that said, there was a real hunger and need for offering professional real estate services in the market. Of course, the beginning was a bit tough because you need to prove yourself that you can do. It's not about what you can say, it's about what you can do. We went past that stage, signed on a project, signed on two, and since then we are relatively busy. Luckily for us, like many services, the work we do speaks volumes for us. So therefore, we keep getting referrals and we keep getting repeat clients, and we're extremely excited about that. Yes, it's a bit of a blend. If you look at the players in the market, first of all, let me take it from a local consumption perspective. The more and more private developers were getting into the market. Previously, property development was a function of mainly government and government-related institutions. So government was building its own houses. The likes of the Social Security Fund had their own projects and other government-related institutions. Now, over time, a few private players started coming onto the market, and from a residential perspective and commercial perspective. Now, the more the supply came into the market, the more there was need to market. Previously, there was no need to market because whatever you did got snapped up. Now there is need to market. How then do you market to attract the best? Is by using the best. Yeah, that was one. But also now from an external perspective, because till today we have not yet covered our skills gap in Rwanda. Yes, we have narrowed it significantly, but we still rely heavily on expatriate staff. And that is from a corporate perspective, from a government perspective, from different angles. What does that therefore mean? It means that these guys, where they come from, as I said earlier, they are used to working with professional agents and therefore expected. Some of them were disappointed, especially those who came in earlier days. They were very disappointed, and you had to rely on a colleague who's lived somewhere, another place, or it's hardly anything you pick in the newspaper. There's no website anywhere you can find properties, and they were getting disappointed. So it was a blend of both, and that really put us in a position to make that decision to start up a business. I like to look at innovation from a point of view of addressing the challenges, because you identify the challenge and you say, how am I going to tackle it? Is by being different, solution oriented. So some of the challenges were, I talked about professionalism. So the innovation we brought was nothing rocket science. Drop an email. If I'm going to show you Sorab, if you come to me and tell me you're looking for an apartment to rent, I'll ahead of time get my agents to email you options and pictures and price ranges and what have you. If you're looking for a property to buy, I will send you an email, or I will advise that you go to our website and you'll see the different options all profiled. So, use of technology as an innovation to tackle the challenge of professionalism. The other thing that we did is we invested. We invested in our people, we invested in staff, we invested in qualified agents. So we were bold enough to go into the labor market and compete with big companies for university graduates. Because you know very well, if you want the best, go for the best. Yeah. So we were bold enough to do that, and it's been paying. So that's the second bit of innovation. The third bit, we said, no, I don't want to be running around with my company in my car. We were bold enough to take up nice premises in a relatively good environment. Yeah, so if my guests, my clients want to see me, they'll feel comfortable to find me in my offices, and I'll have good signage and everything, and that has worked. The third thing we said no, that's not good enough. We now need to go out to the people, participating in events, property exhibitions wherever they may be, going to attend conferences in the country and out of the country, traveling out of the country to go to the Rwandan diaspora at their events and finding them there, and having exhibition stands and talking to them and engaging them. So that has helped. The other one is marketing, branding, and visibility. So signage, something very, very simple. Signage, staff t-shirts, branding, billboard signs, the little things like that, because it has to be in your mind for it to stick there. You have to see it to know that it exists. We can't be giving all these services that people need, and we are not telling people that we are there. Yeah, it's pretty much like winking to a beautiful lady in the dark. Yeah, so we said no, we need to be out there and for people to see us. Yes. Okay, first of all, let me take it back again and say, remind that we don't get involved in construction, we don't build, but contractors and developers are one of our major stakeholders. But that said, in my other life, I'm also the chairman of the Real Estate Practitioners Association. So I understand very well some of the issues that they face. Also very involved in lobbying for policy changes and better incentives and better environment for the industry. I'm quite involved in that. That said, we acknowledge the fact that not only Rwanda does not like to call itself landlocked. We prefer to coin the phrase land linked. Yeah. It poses serious logistical challenges in regards to how you bring materials into the country. We're not helped by the fact that we don't produce a lot locally. So the local supply is very limiting, and getting goods into the country is a challenge. So how do we address this? There are two legal regimes in place that exempt imported materials from paying import duty. So all goods that are manufactured within the East African region, as long as they are manufactured in a partner state and being shipped or transported into another partner state, they do not pay any import duty. The same applies to those that are manufactured within the COMESA region. Yeah. So what that practically means is that your steel, a lot of the cement we produce here is consumed locally. We still have a challenge with the finishing materials, especially the ceramics, your toilets, washrooms, sinks, showers, floor tiles, and those are still a bit of a challenge. When you go to the other smaller ones, your sockets, your switches, yeah, those are a bit of a challenge. They have to come, most of them, especially if you're doing a project, have to be brought in from other countries, China and Turkey and wherever they come from. So that is still a challenge. However, because the government recognizes that there is a huge gap in the availability of real estate, either from a commercial residential perspective, there are incentives that the RDB puts in place to investors in the construction sector that then permit them to bring some of their imports duty free and or heavily discounted, and that helps a lot. So that's how we tackle some of those issues. First of all, the definition of rural and urban is significantly changing in Rwanda. Even in Kigali alone, 10 years ago, there were areas, actually 5 years ago, there were areas that were very, very rural in Kigali city. With people grazing their cows and probably many walking barefooted and what have you, and that is changing. You do raise a very, very pertinent point. I share with you the sentiment, and that Kigali is growing at a much faster rate than the rest of the other towns in the provinces. That is not shocking, because I mean every country will have a capital city, and the capital city will be the most developed compared to all the other cities. But numbers don't lie, and people will always be yearning for services and goods. So there are certain towns that you can see are really mushrooming and are moving at a very exponential rate. Notably Muhanga, Musanze, Rubavu, Rwamagana, Nyagatare, Rusizi. Yeah, those are moving very, very fast. But then again, it is largely because they are the cities of the province. Yeah, so naturally but the growth is being driven by the numbers. People's welfare is improving. People's financial well-being is going up. Banks are moving closer to the people, which is something very, very fantastic. Government services are moving closer to the people, which is something extremely amazing. And yes, we do not see a situation where those cities will move as fast as Kigali, but they are on the run. First of all, just for the record, it's a little more than 2 years. So let me, because I've personally been in entrepreneurship since 2007. One of the biggest lessons is perseverance, because when you start up a business, you have big dreams and big plans, and you've made these projections. Sometimes even going to school spoils us, because we sit on our computers and do all these projections and scenarios and assumptions and draw Excel sheets and all this stuff, and that does not reflect the real world on the market. So perseverance is key. The way you start out in your business with your plans and everything is not necessarily the way you will does not necessarily mean that you'll hit the road running. So there is competition. There are different other factors in the market. You'll come across a developer, like in our business, a developer who will say, I don't need an agent. I'll sell all my houses or I'll rent all my properties. You'll come across a guy who says, I have my car, I'll just drive around and knock on people's gates. I'll look for signs that are there and I'll get it done. So perseverance is extremely key, because if you're convinced about the idea and you've done your thorough homework and you know it works, you need to stick to it. Patience pays, and good things come to those who wait. So that's the biggest thing that we have learned. 2 years ago, we had only one development on our books. Today, because we did the first one properly and we persevered, we have at least a minimum of 4 residential developments and at least another 5 commercial developments on our books. So that perseverance is extremely key. Now, of course, with perseverance comes with discipline. As you grow your business, you need to set priorities and say, I really love going out. I really love having a bottle of beer, or sharing a bottle of beer with my friends. But I may have to cut down a little bit, because I am no longer that salaried person who is waiting for the end of month for my boss to cut me a check. But I have people waiting for me to cut them checks. Right? So that discipline and prioritizing is another extremely important thing that we have learned. The other third one is think big. From the onset, we sat down and said, we are either going to go big or go home. And that is one of the biggest messages I would have for either students who are looking forward to being entrepreneurs, or colleagues in the field, irrespective of what field they are in. Go big or go home. There is nothing like being small in a big way. Go big or go home. If you have decided that you're going to sell your clothes, go big. Don't think small, because Rwanda still has a lot of opportunity, especially for young entrepreneurs who still have the zeal and the drive and the energy and very many years to correct their mistakes. So that's a third thing about thinking big and being driven by that thing of go big or go home. The other one is in terms of rewarding and recognizing, and most importantly, empowering the people you work with. Our biggest resource, our biggest assets are our agents and our staff. We take them through a relatively rigorous employment process, rigorous by our standards, of course, but we also try to get relatively good people out there to come and work with us, because our agents handle high-profile deals and high-profile clients. We wouldn't like them to be embarrassed. We wouldn't like, because that directly reflects on our image as a company. But then we may not be in a position to remunerate them as well as the blue chip companies out there. So how do we do this? How do we keep them? Empower them. Yeah. As a young man, when I just left law school and gone to work in a bank, the salary was peanuts, but there was nothing as rewarding as being sent to represent the institution in a big meeting and stand there and speak on behalf of the institution. Yeah, it's priceless. Attitude. Attitude is one of the biggest things that we shop for. We understand there will be many people out there with qualifications. We understand there will be many people out there who can work for whatever amount you're offering. We understand that there will be many people out there who have the other skills that you're looking for. They can use a computer, they can communicate, they can blah 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 blah. But there are not many people out there with the right attitude. Now, talking about entrepreneurship, that is one of the biggest challenges. And it's not only about entrepreneurship. I think it's one of the biggest challenges about the Rwandan mindset. Attitude is an extremely big challenge in the Rwandan culture. See, even from someone who's as simple as a wheelbarrow pusher, a guy who rides a motorbike, a waitress in a bar, or a guy who cleans public toilets. You'll find these guys with just a wrong attitude to life, and quite often a wrong attitude to work. So to us, that is just a no-go zone, and our biggest thing that we shop for is attitude. Because with the right attitude, you can acquire skills. But with the skills and the wrong attitude, you can't get the job done. So that's our biggest thing. And again, also that applies to even us ourselves as entrepreneurs. You have to have the right attitude. If you've hit a wall on a job or on an assignment or on a pending payment or on pending deadlines, how do you then do you resign? No. With the right attitude, you can drill a hole through that wall and